Hello guys, my name is Prince and this is Math Center. Subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos. Post your comments and questions on my social media handles and I'll respond to it. We are still on the topic trigonometry. In the previous video, we solved a practical problem that involved angle of elevation. In this video, we are going to solve another practical problem that involves angle of depression. So let's look at our question for this video. The angle of depression of a point X on the ground from the top of a building is 61 degrees. If the distance of the point X from the foot of the building is 35 meters, calculate the height of the building. Correct your answer to the nearest whole number. So you have to draw a diagram for this question. The angle of depression of a point X on the ground from the top of a building is 61 degrees. So we are talking about the ground level here and there is a building on the ground. So you have the ground level and this is the building on the ground. The question says the angle of depression of a point X on the ground from the top of a building is 61 degrees. So let's say that this is the point X on the ground. This is the point. The angle of depression of X from the top of the building is 61 degrees. Now, if you are at the top of the building, this is the horizontal line. So the angle of depression of X from the top of the building, it means that if we join X to the top of the building, this angle that will be created here will be the angle of depression. So this angle here is the angle of depression of X from the top of the building. I hope that is clear. So our angle here, you see at the top of the building, this is the horizontal line. This is the normal line, the normal horizontal line. Now, the angle of depression of X from the top of the building, it means that we will have to join the top of the building to X. This downward angle, the downward angle that will be created is what we call the angle of depression. So in this case, this angle of depression is the angle of depression of X from the top of the building. So we can see that from this diagram, this angle here is 61 degrees. So the angle here is 61 degrees. The question goes on to say that if the distance of the point X from the foot of the building is 35 meters, so X from the foot of the building, this is the foot of the building. So it's telling us that the distance between X here and the foot of the building is 35 meters. So from X to the foot of the building is 35 meters. We should calculate the height of the building. So we have to determine how high the building is. Okay, so this is our diagram to draw our right angle triangle from the diagram. As we can see here, the building meets the ground at 90 degrees, so here will be the right angle. Okay, if you watch the video on angle properties of parallel lines, you can see that this line here is a horizontal line. Okay, this line is also another horizontal line. So these two lines will be parallel. This line and the line representing the ground level will be parallel lines. That means that this line here will be a transversal crossing the two parallel lines. If you have this parallel line and a transversal, then the angle created here, which is 61 degrees, will be alternating with the angle created here. We explained this into details in the video on angle properties of parallel lines under plane geometry. You will see that 61 degrees and this angle here are alternating angles. Alternating angles are equal. So if here is 61 degrees, then this side is also 61 degrees. So here is also 61 degrees. Okay, So I'm going to call this point here point X. The question said it's point X, so we have to name it point X. But we don't know the name of this, we don't know the name of this, so I will assume that here is Z and here is Y. We have our right angle here. The distance between this point and this point from the diagram is 35 meters. We need the height of the building. From the diagram here, the height of the building is YZ or ZY. So that is what we have to find. Okay, so we have our right angle triangle here. From the diagram, the height of the building is the distance YZ or the magnitude of YZ. Looking at this diagram very carefully, we can see that YZ is opposite to 61 degrees and YX or XY is adjacent to 61 degrees. So we have opposite and we have adjacent. So we can use tan. Okay, so we can say that from triangle XYZ, tan 61 degrees is equal to opposite, which is YZ, divided by adjacent, which is XY. We know XY from the diagram to be 35 meters. So 61 degrees is equal to YZ divided by XY, which is 35 meters. So we multiply the left hand side by 35, we multiply the right hand side by 35. So 35 and 35 will cancel. So you have 35 times 61 degrees is equal to YZ. So you find this on your calculator. The question said we should correct our answer to the nearest whole number. So you find this on your calculator and you correct your answer to the nearest whole number, and that will give us 63 meters. So YZ, which is the building, is 63 meters. So we can say that the building is 63 meters high. The building is 63 meters high. So you can see from here that we have applied the trigonometric ratios to find the height of the building. Thank you so much for watching this video. In the next video, we are going to solve another question that involves either angle of elevation or depression or both of them. Bye bye.